Hey, in this video, I'd like to talk about the customized session and world thumbnail features which were added in a recent update. Before I go ahead and do that, I need to explain the difference between a world and a session. So a session is anything that contains users. So if you join a session and you see your friends, you hang out, you chat with them, that's a session. Now a session hosts a world usually. So when I make a new session, I might choose, hey, this world, desert meeting space. So I click the desert meeting space world and I open a session in that world. So that's the difference there. In the world browser, you'll see sessions, so some with people in them, and you'll see worlds which are without people in them that you can start up. Even empty sessions, such as headless sessions, are counted as sessions, even though there's no one in them. It's just sort of, is there a session running or is there not? If there's no session running, it's a world. If there is a session running, it's a session. The reason we have to explain that is because there are two different categories of components that work with these thumbnail feature. There are world thumbnail components and there are session thumbnail components. With that being out of the way, let's now talk about how thumbnails are captured. So by default, in a world sort of without this feature, of your world, so without you watching this video, you'll notice that the thumbnails of your world in the world browser are just sort of random. And what happens here is every user takes a kind of picture of the session, and then there's a negotiation that happens on the host computer to sort of figure out, okay, who's got the most recent thumbnail? Let's upload that to the world browser. And that's what you see in the world browser. You see the most recent thumbnail. That usually includes people sort of running around, people chatting. You sometimes get some really funny thumbnails because, people don't remember that they're being taken. Quick reminder here, just in case you might be sort of offended by that randomness, the session thumbnails are only broadcast if it is a public session. If it's a private session, we don't capture thumbnails. So if you're offended by that, keep to private sessions. If it's public, anyone can join that session anyway and see what's going on. So it's the exact same as someone being there. The other thing to note about these thumbnails is they're all 360-degree images, as in they're all the sort of projection that you'll see of the entire world. None of them are flat, and that includes the features that we've been added for custom thumbnails. Those aren't flat either. They're all 360 images. I know that kind of sort of stumped a few people when that feature was released. We don't allow the customized flat images. In some locations, you might see those 360 images flattened. For example, in the active sessions channel within our Discord, you might see them flattened, but do just keep in mind that they're all projected as 360 images in-game in the world browser and on those world orbs. So with those sort of disclaimers and caveats out the way, let's now go over those components. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into a tracking issue. Come on, hand. A list here that I've got of them. It's unusual that I'm presenting a list before we start, and that's because I need to sort of, again, explain the difference between the two categories. So on the top here, we have WorldTextureThumbnailSource, WorldCaptureThumbnailSource. Those operate on just worlds. And then on the bottom here, we have SessionCaptureThumbnailSource, which operates on sessions. So I just wanted, again, to just sort of clearly demark the line between there. I'll be referring to this list as we go. So the first one that we're going to do is the session capture thumbnail source, because it's actually the easiest one to demonstrate. So with my developer tip open here, I'm going to go to create new empty object. And now I've got an empty object open. I'm going to go to attach component and scroll down to the bottom where it says world. And you'll see those components listed. So we've got, let's bring these over here. We've got world capture thumbnail source, world texture thumbnail source, and also session capture thumbnail source. So if I go ahead and add session capture thumbnail source, what I've now done is I've registered this location, as in the location of this empty object right here where my finger is, as a preferred place to start capturing session thumbnails with. So now that one of these is in the world, every time a thumbnail is demanded by the world management systems and by the host, it will now pick between this session capture thumbnail source in the world and another session capture thumbnail in the world. To illustrate this, I have got my private UI enabled here, and you can see up on the top left here is the world I'm hosting. As I'm hosting, I can see the thumbnails for it. And you'll see that we've actually got this thumbnail which is outside. And the reason behind that is I've actually got a session capture thumbnail source sitting on the balcony outside. Let's go ahead and find that one. So that should be the first empty object there. Did I get it? Yeah, I got it. So out here, I've got that session capture thumbnail source running, and it's broadcasting this location as a location to capture a thumbnail. And that's why in the world browser, we're currently seeing that. Actually just updated, and there's me. Usually in session thumbnails, you'll see any users in the world and everything that they're doing. It's a little bit different for world thumbnails though. So yeah, that's the first one there. I do want to briefly touch on the overlay component here. The overlay component here is just a single texture field you can drop in any image. So let me turn off private UI. I'll find an image. Let's just grab any old image. That would actually be kind of funny. So now I've got this image up here, and I put it into the overlay. The important thing to note about overlaying it is that, it needs to be a 360 image. Once again, you can't do non-360 images. You can't overlay anything flat. And B, for security and sort of moderation matters, the alpha of the overlay, the non-alpha of the overlay, as in when it's opaque, can only cover 25% of the overlay. This has made overlays a little bit less useful than they used to be, but we used to have 100% overlays, and that meant you could sort of overlay the session thumbnail with anything you wanted to, and that led to some sort of issues. So this overlay here, the You Tried sticker, won't actually work, but say I dropped it all the way down to sort of 25% coverage, it would work. It'll be useful for overlaying sort of a small logo that's part of the 360 image, or maybe some information, but isn't actually useful for doing 100% custom session thumbnails, so do keep that one in mind. Play around with it a little bit. I will link in the description to some documentation I'm writing on the wiki that covers more about the reasons and information on the sort of 25% limit on that one. So that is SessionCaptureThumbnailSource. We'll go ahead and head back inside just because I've got the list of them there. So for these next ones, I'm actually going to have to talk about them because using them involves saving the world, so we'll just talk about them. They can be found in exactly the same location. So WorldTextureThumbnailSource allows you to do, again, a 100% custom, actually the only one that allows to do it, 100% custom thumbnail for the world. This will only appear in the world browser when there are no sessions open for that world, such as the world orb itself, or again, if it's just sort of world preview, not the session preview. Again, that must be a 360 image, allows you to sort of take a custom image, overlay it with whatever you want, and put it on there as a world owner. And that will update when you save the world, and will not be affected by sessions in any way at all. It's purely the world owner that can override that by saving the world. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. So attach component, world, world capture thumbnail source. And then here you can also exclude users in that capture. Oh no, wait a minute, that's the wrong one. We want world texture. More on that one in just a moment, sorry. These components are fun. World, we want world texture thumbnail source. There it is. So you just, again, drop in an image there, and again, make sure it's 360, or you'll get sort of weird effects in the world browser and weird effects in world orbs. It'll look fine in active sessions, but again, that will default to the session components. So then the last one there is World Capture Thumbnail Source, which I mistakenly added just a moment ago. I'm having tracking issues on the right hand here, but we'll keep going as we're almost done. So World Capture Thumbnail Source. This is similar to the Session Capture Thumbnail Source, but will only fire when you save the world. And again, it lets you specify the location in which the world's thumbnail will be captured. So in this case, it's going to be captured out there on the balcony, only when the world is saved and populated to the world browser. And again, I can do an overlay here, and that overlay can include 25% opaqueness, and the rest will not work as an overlay. Unique to World Capture Thumbnail Source is this exclude users in capture checkbox. It used to be that for World Thumbnails, users were included, and then there was a change to exclude that. If you want to turn that back on, as in, hey, you want to include users, you can just uncheck that text box now, and then when you save the world, they'll be included in that thumbnail. That's all there is to it. You just need to keep in mind, like I said, the difference between session and worlds, and then you'll be able to sort of customize the thumbnails. Like I've said it multiple times, these are all 360 images. We don't allow flat custom thumbnails right now. If you'd like to see that, please make an issue on the GitHub or take a look at it. Right now, we just added this functionality to give you customized thumbnails. For reasons why you might want to see them, for example, if you had a nightclub world, for example, you might want to ensure that there is a session capture source on the dance floor, and there isn't a session capture source in the toilets, for example, because you want to show off the nightclub to its fullest degree. That'll be right bang in the middle of the dance floor, or maybe at the DJ's station up on stage. Not in the toilets, and that will allow you to specify that. Same thing for the world. thumbnails as well. You might want to, again, make sure that when the world is saved, it captures straight from the middle of the dance floor and not in those toilets. That's probably the best, more concrete answer to why you might want to use this that I can think of. That's all there is to it. I just want to clear up some confusion there. Like I said, there'll be documentation linked in the video description that I'm working on in the wiki, as well as just some general information I'll copy out of a Discord post I made. If you have any questions on this, leave some stuff in the comments. Otherwise, I'll get back to you next time with more information. Bye-bye.